In this Minecraft video, I am going to survive 100 days alone in Minecraft's latest version, 1.17. My goals were simple: build a cool base, obtain full diamond, kill the ender dragon, and of course, don't die, because if I do, then I have to restart from day 1. Please enjoy. Spawning in on day 1, I actually got kind of a cool spawn, a nice little plains area with some ice spikes and even a village nearby. I quickly ran over to the village and grabbed a couple of necessary tools. I was trying to make the decision whether I wanted to build my base here at 0-0, which was my initial plan. However, I just didn't really like the terrain around me, and so I decided to pick up the stuff and leave. It is really good to know that there is a village right at 0-0 though, so if I ever need villagers, I could just run straight back here. I of course grabbed some stone tools and also made a bit of leather armor just to be safe. I know it probably won't do much to a creeper explosion, but if it saves me half a heart, maybe that's the half a heart that'll save me. Of course, with the leather, I also grabbed a bunch of food whilst I was exploring. Pretty much the early time in this world was me trying to find a base. I kept doing that on day 2, where I found a desert temple in a mountain. I'll let you figure that one out. And whilst I was still exploring, I found this nice open little mountain thing. I decided that I could probably turn the inside of this mountain into kind of a cool base, and so I decided to set up shop. The rest of the day pretty much was me setting up the basics. This was going to be my home for the time being, which was just a little hole, but trust me, over time I was going to proper build to it and hopefully have something really cool. Once day 3 came, I tried to set up a bit of a fence area just outside the mountain, just to be able to stop any mobs from sneaking up to me. It did take me a while to realize that they could just jump from the top, so I tried to make it as secure as possible, though I really don't think I did that well in the grand scheme of things. Maybe if I just light up the area, it'd be a bit safer, but for now, this very pathetic fence will have to do. On day 4, I set up some basic farms, and I mean basic. I mean, there's quite frankly not a lot I'm going to be able to get here at this point, but I really have to start thinking about the longevity of this world, and well, crops are 100-day survivalist's best friend. You could just regrow them and you'll have an endless supply of food. And so that it will start as a humble little farm. I'm sure after a while it will be a grand little thing. After that, there was a couple of surface caves nearby that I snuck into. I was able to grab a little bit of iron and a little bit of coal just to be able to have the basics needed. I wanted to book it as soon as possible, so getting just a couple of pieces of iron was really going to help me. And it was turning night, so it was time for me to head home before the mobs came out and attacked me. On day 5, I didn't really want to travel too far to actually get to a cave, and so I set up a little mineshaft area. I was making a staircase down, which in retrospect I really shouldn't have made 3 wide. It took so much longer than it should have. And it was by the night time that I actually found myself a cave. Now, I was not prepared to enter this cave at all, so I immediately just skedaddled. Once I have a bit more better gear, I'll definitely pop in there and get some more iron, but for now, definitely not. I made some basic iron tools and some basic iron armor, and then let curiosity take over. I was really determined not to enter that cave just a day ago, and yep, here we are. I played it really safely, being able to get some more basic stuff, enough for me to actually get full iron armor, which was one of my early goals. As comfy as that leather armor was, it really wasn't going to protect me that long, and so full iron was made by the end of day 6. On day 7, I was able to tend to my farm for the first time. Now that I had a bit of extra wheat and seeds, instead of replanting, I decided to expand what I had. And so I went looking for some cows and some chickens. It may have taken all day, but here we are with a little cow and a little chicken pen. And like I say, humble beginnings. There's only a couple now, but after a while, they'll be filled to the brim with animals. On day 8, now that I had the animals in, it was time for me to go get some sugarcane. Believe it or not, I hadn't actually found any at this point. My idea was that I wanted to get started on the bookshelves, you know, for a level 30 chanter immediately, and so I just headed into the world. And by the middle of day 8, I was able to find myself a decent amount. It was turning night as I was beginning to head home when I made a very silly discovery. I had no idea where my base was. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to do in this world, apart from take it quite slow, I'm not sure if you've noticed, was I didn't really want to depend too much on coordinates. And so at no point whilst I was there, I ever made a mark of my coordinates. And so unfortunately, I was just aimlessly walking around hoping that I could find exactly where I came from. As it was turning night, I was not feeling safe at all, so I dug a second hole into the ground and just waited out the night. I'm gonna be honest with you, most of this night was me on Google trying to find if there was a way for me to get back home. Unfortunately, I couldn't really find a way for me to get back home directly. I mean, unless I was poorly googling stuff, it just didn't seem possible. And so I sort of came to the decision that it was probably time for me to set up a new base. I was just about to make a bed, and that's when I realized that I already had a bed back at the original base. And though it's not something I've used for a very long time, but when you have your spawn set, a compass will point directly to where your spawn is. And so on day 9, I had the iron, I had the redstone, I had a compass made, and it was pointing directly to where I believe my base was, and so I just started walking. Hey, Editor Haven here with all the wisdom. Turns out this isn't correct. The compass will just point to the world spawn, which would be at 0, 0. Luckily, I just passed my base area whilst heading towards 0, 0. I just wanted to clarify that so current Haven I won't get yelled at for being a fool. Anyway, back to it. Day 10 came and I was still walking. The only really interesting thing to happen on this day was that I was able to kill an enderman that dropped a grass block. I don't think there's anything I'll be able to use this grass block for, but it was kind of cool. And once I realized the location of where I was, I popped that compass away and ran back home. Oh, it was so beautiful to see. Admittedly, there's not really a lot there, but I sort of settled on this being my home. It was a nice little area. I'll make sure to mark down coordinates in the future because I really don't want to go through that scare again. But by day 10, I had officially made it back home and we could start getting back to work. And since we made it to double digits, I just want to give you all a quick reminder that if you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing. It does help me out a lot and there is still a massive 90% of people who want to subscribe. And secondly, if you're interested in getting 200 days of this world, please get this video to 5,000 likes and I'll start working on it straight away. I'm sorry about that, guys. Let's get back straight to it. It was day 11 where I finally made a shield, would you believe? I just forgot they existed for a while, apparently. You think after the hundreds of Minecraft days I've played, I'd remember that shield should be one of the first things you could make, but what do I know? I then wanted to make the outside of my base look a little bit pretty. My idea was to make this into a bit of a hobbit hole. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to Lord of the Rings, and I've always wanted to build a proper nice hobbit hole, and so my idea was to make a nice big round door, and then just have a nice little outside area, you know? It looked great. The only problem is I didn't really have much oak, which is what I wanted to be my main building material. And because of the area, the only trees around was a birch forest. Luckily, there was 1 or 2 oak trees in the plain, so I was able to get the saplings from them and just keep replanting them, though it was going to be a bit of a slow process. I carried that on until day 12, where, I'll be honest with you, chains are very hard to place, apparently, at least I look like a moron. I also made a nice little bench, and, well, I do have to keep running to go get oak, but for the most part, I really like the outside of this build. It did need a little bit more work, so on day 13, here we are with the finished outside, where, I'm going to be honest with you, now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't really look like a hobbit hole, but it still looks kind of cool in my opinion. Maybe I can tweak it a little bit longer down the line, and well, we'll just hope that that's the case. For now, I have other things way to do. On day 14, it was a day of Stardew Valley. I bred the animals, I farmed, I cut down the trees. I saw a big tree in the distance, and so I thought that would be a good supply of oak saplings, and I ran towards it, and that's when I saw the giant oak forest right near my base. Oh, render distance, how you failed me. I think whilst I'm cutting down these trees, I just want to quickly mention 2 things to you guys. The first one is that I'm actually playing this on my gaming laptop, my side laptop. I'm currently in Switzerland visiting my fiance, so this is not my main PC. That's why you see the leaves as fast block, is because this laptop can't run the high levels that the main PC can. It still can run really well in my opinion, it just needs to be a bit limited. Secondly, for one reason or another, I seem to lose a lot of FPS if I'm in a single player world, so I'm actually playing this on my multiplayer server as a single person. I know it's kind of a waste to use a multiplayer world like this, but then what can you do? It's really good to know that I can get some good FPS on this laptop, even if I have to limit it and put it on a multiplayer world. But anyway, that's enough rambling. After cutting down all the trees, I was heading back where I found a wandering trader, where I made a very interesting choice. I didn't know of any mountains or tigers nearby that could have spruce trees on them, and so I made the decision to actually trade a spruce sapling for a couple of emeralds. Mainly was not a good trade, but considering that spruce trees could be something I want to use in the future, it's not the worst. Also, because of the saplings, I was able to replant a forest near my base, so next time I do need oak or a lot of oak, I can just cut down the forest nearby. Day 15, I went back into the caves. After caving for a little while, I actually found a spawner where I got some sweet juicy melon seeds. After that, it was just a bit more caving. On day 16, I accidentally looked at an enderman, which was a bit spooky. Did get an extra pearl though, which was quite nice. I also was able to find 4 diamonds, which wasn't really going to help me long term, but it's a start. And then there was a swarm of zombies that tried to kill me. A couple of creepers attacked. There was this one sneaky creeper, which luckily I was on my guard there, as long as that doesn't happen again. Oh Jesus! I was still caving on day 17, where I was able to find myself a mine shaft. I was also able to find 2 more veins of diamonds, getting 13 in total at this point. However, the cave spiders in the mine shaft weren't going to let me have them easy. I took that very personally, and so I decided I'm going to destroy every cave spider spawner that I found. I just had a feeling that at the end of the cave spider spawner there was going to be something really good, maybe a chest with an enchanted book, maybe more diamonds for me, something great. So I fought these cave spiders hammer and tongue, and it took a while, but by the end of day 17 I was able to break the cave spider spawner and there was nothing. That was not a waste of time. On day 18 I was able to find 2 more diamonds. This cave spider was dropping it like it was hot, which was just a distraction to be able to attack me, the jerk. And after finding another cave spider spawner and this time being able to destroy it a lot easier, this time I was actually rewarded with diamonds. I think that's enough caving for the time being. It's time for me to casually skedaddle. It took me until day 19 for me to get back home. I just sorted my loot that I had picked up from the caves at this point. I have also mentioned a few times that I want to take things slowly, so technically I could just instantly make full diamond, but where's the fun in that? I used my diamonds to make full tools and a diamond helmet. I had enough diamonds saved for an enchantment table, and fortunately I forgot the obsidian. It's alright though, I'll head straight back down there to get some obsidian after I've casually bred the animals. I've got to make sure they come really big. You know how much leather you need for a level 30 enchant setup? It's quite a lot. On day 20, I basically just spent the day running back into the caves and getting obsidian. As much as I would love to show me mining all of the obsidian, I decided against it. Here's me enchanting all of my gear. It's only basic gear, but it is a start. Once I have that level 30 enchanter set up, I'm going to be set for days. And after that, I set out into the world, because as much as I loved my wheat farm, it was time for me to get a little bit more crops. Whilst heading back to the original village, I actually found another village, which merely was more useful. This village actually had carrots in it, which I don't think the original village did. And because of that, I now had the full trinity. The carrots, the wheat, the potatoes. I know there's probably going to be a few people asking about beetroot, but like, really? Come on. And the village as well wasn't actually that far away, so I was able to get back on the same day to start a bigger farming area. I set up 4 little pens using the dark oak wood that I picked up a little bit earlier, with one of them designated for wheat, one of them designated for carrots, one of them designated for potatoes, and also one for sugarcane. And by 22's end, I had completed exactly what I wanted to do with the farms. Now, admittedly, I don't have enough carrots to fill out the farms, but I did with the potatoes and the wheat. Well, close enough. And the sugarcane was, well, I'm not sure if this was the most efficient sugarcane farm. I can guarantee I'm going to get yelled at by somebody in the comments, but it looked cool, so I guess that's just going to be a win. Now that that was done, it was time for me to start digging out the interior of my house. Like I said, I wanted it to be kind of like a hobbit hole, which admittedly the door isn't a hobbit hole, but we'll get there. All of 24 was just more digging. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I just dug for a very long time. In fact, it took me all the way until the end of day 25 to finish the digging that I needed to do. I finished the day by labeling off the areas that I wanted. I had a storage area to the left. I had an enchant set up and nether portal to the right. And of course the main bedroom, that's going to be at the back of the house. It's just a hole. A very well dug out hole, but by the end of the 100 days, I hope it's going to be something very, very nice. I needed a bunch more wood before I started working on the interior of the house, so I went to go chop down some trees on day 26. I did get distracted by this enderman. I was trying to chase him down and kill him, but unfortunately that just wasn't going to be the case. And so I just cut down the tree instead. If the Lorax is watching this, I severely apologize. And once I had enough wood, I came back in and started working on the floor. I had the idea to use granite because I just never really used granite before, and I had a cool idea of how I wanted this build to look. I had the granite laid out on the flooring by day 27. It was only the outer rim admittedly, but it was a couple of just trial and errors until I had something done. And once I had that completed, I started working on the nether and enchanting room. I did have to tweak it a little bit, which I was doing on day 28 because it wasn't really going to fit at first, but you know, it wasn't too hard. I just had to make sure I planned everything out properly and we'd be good to go. And it wasn't too long before all the flooring was complete. I've still got to do all the walls and everything, but for the time being, I'm quite satisfied with how it looks. I'm going to do a little bit of a break there for building, and it was time for me to head to the area around because I realized that I haven't really explored it that much, apart from the getting lost on day 10 with the sugarcane, in which I was able to find a swamp that had a witch hut that had a witch. But more importantly, that witch had a cat. And, well, let's just say I'm slowly turning into a crazy cat man when it comes to Minecraft. I quickly ran back home because I needed to get myself a fishing rod because it was time for me to fish. I got back on day 30 and I started fishing, and after 10 fish, just to be safe, you never know how many fish was going to be taken to actually get the cat itself, it was time for me to try and get him. So I snuck a hole in the top and, oh, first try, cool. I then spent the rest of the day getting him back. I wanted to make sure he was back safe and securely, and then he cuddled up to me for the night, which just, oh, it's Minecraft's best feature. He also brought me a feather too, what a legend. I will call him Meow Meow McFuzzyface. Everybody say hi to Meow Meow McFuzzyface. Yes, that's a BoJack Horseman reference. It's a great show, go watch it. On day 31, I bred a couple of chickens, I killed a couple of chickens, and then I made some arrows. I needed a good arrow source and food source because it was time for me to enter into the Nether. Now, usually, when I go into the Nether, I'm in full diamond with some pretty good gear, so having just a diamond helmet, I was admittedly a little bit nervous here. But once I had everything set up by day 32, I entered the Nether. Now, I know it's going to be quite a difficult task for me to explore the Nether and find a fortress. Oh, this one right there. Why does this keep happening? Like, seriously, this happened in Expanding World as well. I mean, I'm not going to complain about a Nether fortress 2 blocks away from my spawn. Nevertheless, I didn't want to spend too much time in here. I just had to find a blaze spawner, some nether warts, and obviously just get out and come back later. Once I had located a good place for a blaze spawner, which was actually quite near where we entered, I was running around looking for some nether wart. And I can 100% assure you that in this fortress, there was not a single piece of nether wart. I ran around it 4 or 5 times in the time it took for all of day 32 to end. And so it was a very unlucky moment for me to find a fortress that just didn't have nether wart. I did, however, get a little lucky though, because as I was running around one time, this wither skeleton tried to stop me. And so I casually killed him and he dropped a skull for me. Now I have no intention of killing the wither in this first 100 days, but for 200 days maybe? We'll see. Once I was 100% satisfied that there was no wart inside this fortress, it was time for me to head into the main nether itself. I have to find a second fortress because if not, I'm never going to be able to make potions. And so I spent all of day 33 exploring, as well as day 34. In fact, I was exploring for so long I was able to get the advancement Hot Tourist Destination, which just, wow, that should really sum this up. However, it was day 36 where I found myself a second fortress, and thank God, it had been over an hour at this point of searching the Nether. However, thanks to the power of editing, you only had to see about a minute or two of it. Inside the fortress, I was very quickly able to find some wart, and also I was able to find a saddle, which was something I was really interested in getting. Other than that, not really much happened here other than this sneaky little wither trying to sneak up on me. Nice try, Copernicus. I was admittedly just writing some notes just so I know exactly what happened on this day, so it's kind of on me, but not the point. I was heading back on day 37 where I made a mistake that, well, let's just say you're going to experience some deja vu right now. I've said a couple of times that I don't like to use coordinates in this 100 days. There's no real point in doing that kind of thing. I didn't write down the coordinates of the main Nether portal. I have no idea where I am, and so I just aimlessly walked around in the area that I believe the Nether fortress was at. I pretty much did that for all of 37 and 38. However, on day 39, I kind of got a bit of a lucky break. I found myself a broken Nether portal, which just had enough obsidian to get me a full portal itself. My original plan was probably going to be to trade with some piglins to get obsidian, but I guess I just lucked out. It's funny whenever I do something really stupid that just the game gives me a break and just lets me look out. That being said, it was turning night by the time that I was returning to the overworld. I wasn't at my main portal and it's hard to say how far away I actually was, and so I decided to run back. I could have hidden the hole again, but the only reason I did that so early on was because I only had leather or basic iron armor. I don't actually remember what armor I had set up at that point. But now that I had enchanted a bit of diamond stuff, I was not too worried. I also found a broken Nether portal, which apparently I had already searched. I don't actually remember searching it, but there you go. I also found the 00 village, so I knew exactly where I was at this point. I took a quick nap into the village, and then I spent 40 getting back home. I also had picked up a horse at this point. I don't really have a name for him yet, but there we go. I probably could have got back super quick on day 40, but I was really determined to get this horse back, and the couple of oceans and water spots made this a bit difficult. Nevertheless, it was only night on day 40 that I was able to return with my horse. It was day 41 where I decided to work work on a new build that I've always wanted to do in a Minecraft world. I've always wanted to build a hobbit hole, so my not so hobbit hole will get worked on later. However, the second thing I've always wanted to build is a nice big red barn. Why? I genuinely don't know. And so I grinded for a lot of clay on day 41. Also completely irrelevant to the video, but at some point I got kicked for flying because I was riding the horse too much. Yeah, I'll let you figure that one out. It was more of the same on day 42 as well. It was a long task where I basically spent my life grinding clay. And I was pretty satisfied with the amount of clay that I had by day 43's end. Let's just hope that I had enough to actually build the barn that I want to build. However, every single time I look at red barns for references on Google, every single one of them had some white in it, and so I popped into the Nether to grab some quartz. I spent the rest of 43 and most of 44 grinding the quartz itself. However, the only reason I decided to head back was because my pickaxe was just way too slow. I just decided I surely have enough now to make a level 30 enchanter. Let's make a really good diamond pickaxe. And so I made a level 30 enchanter and got efficiency 4 and unbreaking 3 on my pickaxe. Now that I had that completed after a very quick nap, I headed back into the Nether. Day 45 and I was just grinding quartz. It pretty much was the same of this, and it was also the same on day 46. At least I was going to have more than enough levels to actually get this moving. But it was on day 47 that I had headed back and I began the build. The only thing I really had to wait for was the terracotta to build, but looking at it, I'm fairly confident I knew that I had enough. The only thing that I needed for the terracotta was, well, I needed some red dye to turn it into red terracotta. And so I had a plan to help me with this. It was time for me to head to the Nether. It didn't take me too long to find the bone blocks that I was looking for. My plan was really simple. I knew that you could get red dye from rose bushes, and there was a couple of rose bushes sat right outside my base. So once I got back on day 48, I was just duplicating the roses with all of the bone meal that I got from the bone blocks that I got from the Nether. Ooh, say that 3 times fast. And it was so worth it because look at the amount of red dye that I got from some basic bone blocks. I also didn't even use all of the bone meal itself, so whenever I need to grow something in the future, well, I've got a bunch of bone meal left in the background. Now that I had that done, it was time for me to build the barn. I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of it was just me boringly trying to replicate an image on Google Images. So here we are on day 53, where I had the outside of the barn completed. There was still a couple of tweaks I made to it, but for the most part, I would say it's completed. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. It's not the best looking barn you'll see, but you have to remember that I'm not an amazing builder. Whenever I play with other people, I leave them to do the builds, and well, for what it is, it will do. It will serve its purpose. I'm pretty happy with it. I then started working on the pens on the inside on day 54. I just wanted to make the inside look nice, like a proper nice barn, and it took me all the way until the end of day 55 to complete the inside. The horse with no name has now got a home. I put him into his pen and just left him at it. After that, I bred and killed some more chickens because I was still running out of food, plus the feathers was always nice. Now that I had the barn built, it was time for me to head back to the Nether. I simply wanted blaze rods. I was trying to split up the actual task that I was doing rather than just doing 20 days of building and then 20 days of this or that. So splitting this up as building a barn and then getting the blaze rods felt like a nice little break for me. And it was day 57 where I got enough blaze rods and it was time for me to head home. However, at that point I also made another decision. Now, I'll just show you this quick clip where the blazes were doing massive amounts of damage to me. As much as I don't mind the iron armor, it quite frankly wasn't going to be enough to protect me, and one of my goals was to get full diamond. And so by 58, it was time for me to head back into the Nether to get some more diamonds. I may as well tick off one of the 3 challenges at this point, and so it was time for me to get full diamond. On day 59, I got a few diamonds among a couple of other things. It was actually a really nice caving trip. It was nice and relaxing. I got a bunch done. I'm really happy with the way that the caves have been changed. As far as I'm aware as well, the caves that are below Y0 have been removed at this point, but I assume they're going to add them back. I really hope they add them back. And I was still caving on day 60 where I found a name tag for the horse with no name, which merely, obviously, he will have a name soon. I don't know what that name will be. Maybe I'll let you guys decide it, but for the time being, it was time for me to search for more stuff. Also, I know I've already done this, but I'm going to do it again. I was able to find some melon seeds. My last day of caving was on day 61. I had 15 diamonds to my name, and it was time for me to leave. I headed back home, thinking that those 15 diamonds was going to be able to get me a chest plate, leggings, and boots. I'll say that again for those who didn't understand that. I thought these 15 diamonds was going to be enough to get me a chest plate, leggings, and boots. Anyway, here I am on day 62 realizing that I don't have enough diamonds for boots. What can you do? I was able to level 30 all of my armor, including grindstoning my helmet and getting that level 30. And since the rest of it's level 30, I may as well get some level 30 iron boots as well. I also did the same for my sword and bow. A sharpness 3 sword and a powerful bow was really going to help me damage some mobs. On day 63, I made a basic path to the barn. It really was basic, but there we go. It was just to match the path towards the farming area, but now that that was done, it was time for me to work on my not-so-hobbit hole. And so the first things I worked on was the flooring and, well, the center wall. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I just worked on this like a madman. I did not sleep, I did not check the day counter, and so though I can tell you when I finished this, the exact time that each one of these took, I really couldn't tell you. So these are pretty much guesstimates on when these are, but what can you do? On 64, I had the flooring completed and the center wall completed as well. It looked quite fancy as a nice little center area, and once that was done, it was time for me to work on the enchant/nether portal room. Once that was completed, it was then time for the storage room, which, well, I think is my favorite room in the house now that I look at it properly. I then moved all of the items that I had to the storage room themselves. I didn't actually sort out the stuff yet because that is honestly going to be my least favorite thing to do in this world. Nevertheless, Future Haven can deal with that. Current Haven's got a bedroom to build. I think it was the biggest room in the house, so I really had to get moving on this one. And well, here's the finished product. I can tell you right now it was day 70 when I had this completed. And well, it's time for me to do a little bit of a quick tour. Firstly, let's show you the inside, the center area. That center wall looked great in my opinion. The nether/enchant portal room, I'm going to be honest with you, I only just noticed that the roof wasn't completed. I'll have to do that in 200 days maybe. I'll show you the nice little storage area, which like I say is definitely my favorite room. I don't know, it just has a really nice physique to it. And then you've got the bedroom. There is Meow Meow McFuzzyface's favorite room, and oh, it just looks adorable, doesn't it? I can happily admit that I'm not the best builder when it comes to Minecraft. In fact, whenever I play Minecraft with other people, I'll let them do the builds while I just gather the materials. But all things considered, for what this build is, I'm actually really satisfied with it. I decided to make a couple of tweaks to the door on day 70 as well, but overall I'd say that the first task of the 3 that I want to do is officially completed. Now that that was done, it was time for me to grab some taters and head back to the nether. Probably should have cooked them, but what can you do? I wanted to find myself a warped forest because I just needed ender pearls. Now I have found a warped forest before. Obviously I got hot tourist destination. That being said, I'm not 100% sure where that warped forest was, and so I'd have to find a new one. 73, I was still exploring. Unfortunately, I don't think I was going to get very lucky with just instantly finding a warped forest on this one. However, it took until day 74 for me to find the warped forest itself. I always go for 20 ender pearls. It's just a lucky number. That means that I'll never need another ender pearl to get to this stronghold, and so I started killing endermen aplenty. And it was by day 75 where I got my 20th ender pearl. It was time for me to head home and start cooking up these taters because uncooked potatoes, really not a good food source. Whilst the potatoes was cooking, it was time for me to sort my storage area. Quite frankly, I just knew that this had to be done, and so I bit the bullet and started getting it done. I'll speed up the footage a little bit just to show you how fun it actually was. And by day 79's end, I was able to sort out the last item. And I know for the future, if I ever need to set up a storage area, I'm going to do that at the start of the 100 days. 99% sure I've said that before, but this time I actually mean it because this was painful. After that, I headed to the nearby ocean to set up a, we'll call it a fishing dock. It was just basically just some cobblestone in the water, because as much as I had one cat, I'm 99% sure Meow Meow McFuzzyface was starting to get a bit lonely. There was nothing special on day 80. I basically just spent my entire time fishing for cats. Fishing for cats? I spent the entirety of day 80 just fishing for fish. I obviously wanted a bunch of cats, and well, fish was the way to go about it. Once I had it finished completed by day 81, I started to fill the barn. There was a nearby donkey that I tamed and rushed back, and then I bred him with the horse with no name to make a mule. I now have a donkey, mule, and horse in there, which I'm going to be honest with you, the only one I'll probably use extensively is the horse, but you know what? It's just nice to have the full barn filled with animals. It looks nice. I will need some more saddles though. I think that's going to be on the bucket list of stuff I need to do. On day 82, I kind of neglected the farms, and so it was time for me to expand them and, well, make a bunch of crops that I needed. Luckily, as I've already mentioned, the bone meal that I had left over from the bone blocks was going to make this really easy. You could say make it a piece of carrot cake. I'm hilarious. Enough grinding the farms, let's move on. It was by day 83 that I was really considering the end game of this world. I really needed to fight the Ender Dragon, so it was time for me to go and grind some gravel. Luckily, a nearby cave have a bunch of gravel in, so I was able to pick up a bunch of that, get back home and grind off as much gravel as I possibly needed. I spent all of 84 grinding gravel as well. I also bred a couple of chickens. It was a really simple day, but I mean, I'm never going to need another arrow again, let's be honest. Once I was satisfied with the amount of arrows I had, it was day 85 where I headed to the nearby village. I was able to get 3 cats and accidentally a 4th when I let them breed each other, but I mean, there's no such thing as too many cats. At least that's what I keep telling myself. And once I had that completed, it was day 86 where I got all the cats nice and home. They met Meow Meow McFuzzyface. Meow Meow McFuzzyface obviously approves the cats. And now they can have a cat party every single time that I'm not in the home. Also, I'm pretty sure this is a Mandela effect. You know how when you put jukeboxes next to birds and the birds dance? I thought cats did the same thing when you played cat next to them. I think I'm just going a bit crazy. On day 87, I decided that the animal pen that was there was A, not big enough, and B, I didn't really like the location. And so I set up a really basic bigger farm right next to the barn. I pretty much spent all day flattening that out, making a fenced area and dragging all the animals over there. Sure, they're not split up into their own animal pens, but quite frankly, I don't need them to be. As long as I can breed them, then I've got really nothing to worry about. Plus, they seemed happier, you know, bigger space. You gotta look after the animals, you know? On day 88, I was causing a bit of deforestation. I was actually running a little low on wood, and so it was time for me to chop down every tree I can. So I spent all of 88 basically causing a mass tree slaughter. If you can slaughter a tree, that is. I did replant them though, so I'm sure the Lorax won't be too annoyed at me. And once I had enough wood, it was time for me to really consider one of the last tasks that I needed to do. I had the house built. I was preparing for the end, but the third task that I had was to make full diamond armor, and at this point, I only had 3/4. And so it was day 89 where I headed down into the caves to find the elusive diamond boots. And it was by the end of the same day that I was able to find myself a diamond vein. It really didn't take that long, and quite good. I didn't want to spend ages down here in these caves. Also, bit of a side note, this is probably the longest I've ever gone in Minecraft without being full diamond. I know I said that I wanted to take things slowly, but maybe I took it a tiny bit too slow. That being said, day 90 holds that record of full diamond armor. I level 30'd my diamond boots, and now I had a full set of level 30 diamond enchanted armor. And once that was completed, the 10-day countdown to day 100 had now begun. My base had been built, my horse's base has been built, my armor had been obtained. It was time for me to go and kill the Ender Dragon. First things first though, let's grab a bunch of obsidian and head back. I wanted to make a nether portal at the actual end city itself, and so once I had that completed, I jumped on my trusty stallion and well, we headed into the world. It was only by day 92 as well that I was able to find the stronghold itself. I dug a little bit of a safe area for the horse with no name and headed straight into the stronghold. I had a quick gander around and it didn't take me long at all to actually find the end portal itself. I wasn't planning on jumping straight in though. I first set up a nether portal and headed straight back to the main nether portal itself. I knew that it was time for me to make the path between the two, and so I spent all of day 94 doing that. Once I got back, I was able to grab a couple of snacks. You never know, too much food when you're fighting an elusive Ender Dragon. And once I had that back, I was able to get back on day 95. I didn't jump straight into the portal though. I decided it would be a good idea to have a quick search of the libraries nearby to see if I can find any cool enchanted books. The first library appeared to have been burnt to the ground. I'm not really sure what happened there, but unfortunately there was no enchanted books. They were just plain normal boring books. However, the second library was standing perfectly fine. That being said, there was no chest in it, like at all. Like, there's not a single chest in the entirety of this library, which is not something I've ever seen before. I assume it can happen because obviously it's happened here, but yeah, I just didn't find a chest in this one. So fortunately, the good luck books that I could potentially get wasn't gonna be here. Hey, Editor Haven here, back with all the wisdom. Did you clearly see that chest right there? You know, this one? Because Current Haven didn't. Let's all point and laugh at his tomfoolery. Anyway, back to the video. Anyway, that's enough dilly-dallying, as I always say. Let's head into the end. On day 96, it was time for me to fight the Ender Dragon. Hey, Editor Haven here, back with one last bit of wisdom. Do you notice me falling through the floor and then instantly teleporting back up? Well, turns out that was just lag. As you can clearly see, there is no way for me to teleport up as I am not in my chat. I know most people would probably assume that as it is, but I got yelled at a lot for trios when this happened as well. It made me sad. Anyway, I'm out for the last time. Enjoy the rest of the video. Now, I've fought the Ender Dragon plenty of times, and with full diamond, a sharpness 3 sword, and a power 4 bow like I mentioned, this was really a simple fight. The Ender Dragon didn't stand much of a chance, and he went down the same day. Getting 66 levels, I grabbed the egg and decided to head straight home. And with only 4 days left, I was like, well, I'm done. There's not really much else I needed to do. I'd completed my 3 challenges. But then I remembered a mistake that I'd made. The horse with no name was still at the stronghold just waiting for me. And considering he's been pretty much my only friend if you ignore Meow Meow McFuzzyface, I decided I needed to bring him home. I needed to have him safely home so we could celebrate day 100 together. And so, being the moron that I am, I decided to run in the overworld rather than use the Nether portal itself to head back to the horse himself. And I was able to get there back on day 98, where I got the horse and started riding back home. This time I actually decided not to use the Nether because I thought it'd be too dangerous for the horse, but nevertheless it was time for me to head back home in the overworld where I was being another moron. So right at the end of this world, just before I got back, I decided I needed to take a short little break. I can't remember if I needed to go get a drink or the toilet or whatever I was decided to doing, and so I stopped my recording. And I never started it again. So here we are on day 101 with the 100 days survived. Sad to say that I didn't actually record the final 2 days. Admittedly, all I did was get the horse back, put him in his pen, and do a little bit of farming, just preparing for the potential of 200 days. Unfortunately though, well, here we are on day 101. I'll do a quick tour. I'll show that the horse was back. I'll show that the farm was completed and filled. And well, now it's done. I had survived 100 days in hardcore Minecraft 1.17, and that is how it happened. I really hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Take care, everybody.